Today is February 4th, 2026. I'm going to be reading letters from Black Americans for the rest of the month to celebrate Black History Month. Now, this one is coming from Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr. to Eleanor Roosevelt. I will give you some background on it, and there's some footnotes I'll read at the end, but this is very fascinating. And it's a good, synopsis, so to speak, of history in 1956. So let me give you the setting, and I will tell you about this book at the end of the video. Congressman Adam Clayton Powell Jr. to Eleanor Roosevelt in 1956. Adam Clayton Powell Jr., who lived from 1908 to 1972, broke with the Democratic Party to support Dwight D. Eisenhower, a Republican, over Adlai Stevenson, who ran unsuccessfully in 1952 and 1956. Eisenhower was elected with 40% of the black vote and went on to propose the Civil Rights Act of 1957, which allowed the Justice Department to sue on behalf of blacks denied the right to vote. Eisenhower signed the Civil Rights Acts of 1957 and 1960 into law. In 1960, Powell vigorously supported the presidential candidacy of Senator John F. Kennedy. So, now we're going to get to the letter. The top of the letter, it said Democratic National Headquarters, Washington, D.C., November 5th, 1956. I am extremely flattered that you have been taking cognizance of my stand on civil rights. No matter what you may ever say about me, I shall always consider you as a very great American, and I have been saying so in cities throughout the country. I cannot, however, understand how Mr. Stevenson can continue to hide behind your petticoats and is unwilling to publicly take a stand on the question that is the most important to America today. I am certain that you agree with me that America is being judged not on rigid price supports, Tidelands oil, natural gas, nor private versus public power, but on human decency, freedom, and the right to vote. This is 1956, y'all, not 2026. Okay? Let me continue. I noted in today's press that you stated that the Democratic Party has its Eastlands, but the Republicans have their Jenners. And there's a footnote I'll read at the end. I respectfully call your attention to the fact that Dwight David Eisenhower has publicly stated that he expects no support from U.S. Senator Joseph McCarthy, Jenner, nor Malone. I have repeatedly tried to reach Mr. Stevenson, and perhaps you can do it for me. Will he now, before the votes are cast on Tuesday, stand up and publicly repudiate his support of not one, but all of the Eastlands, particularly Eastland, Talmadge, and Huey P. Long? Will he publicly state his position on school integration in the South and just what he would advocate doing when school officials defy federal court orders and all due process has been exhausted at the state level? Does Mr. Stevenson favor the immediate introduction and passage of a right to vote bill, which will give every American his own precious heritage? And finally, does he agree with Senator Robert Byrd that we must have a Democrat for the chairman of the Rules Committee so that civil rights legislation can be bottled up in committee and never permitted to reach the floor of the House? These are the issues, in my opinion, which are the most important in America today. And yet, Mr. Stevenson will not speak out. If he does not speak out, I must assume that it is because he cannot. You have been a great champion and a great fighter for civil rights, and I hope that you will always continue to be. All that I have been asking and continue to ask is that Mr. Stevenson stand up and repudiate the elements of his party and the concepts which are completely opposed to everything you stand for before the world. And then he signed it, Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Now, if you don't know your history, the Democrats used to be the Dixiecrats, and they were all, against black people. They didn't want to have us to have any kind of rights or anything. So, and then what happened is when they did try to advocate for black people. Well, some of them broke off. Some of the Dixiecrats broke off and they became Republicans. And they also became the K, the K, and the K. So, know your history, y'all. Now, let me read you those footnotes. Here's the first one. James Oliver Eastland, who lived 1904 to 1986, was a Democrat from Mississippi. He served in the U.S. Senate from 1943 to 1978, during which time he was an ardent segregationist and opponent of the civil rights movement. William Ezra Jenner served in the U.S. Senate for Indiana from 1947 to 1959. Now, here's the other footnotes. George Wilson Malone, who lived 1890 to 1961, was a conservative Republican, represented Nevada in the U.S. Senate from 1947 to 1959. Herman Eugene Talmadge lived from 1913 to 2002. He was an ardent segregationist who served as governor of Georgia from 1948 to 1955 and in the U.S. Senate from 1957 to 1981. That's not that long ago, y'all. Huey P. Long lived from 1893 to 1935. He served as governor of Louisiana from 1928 to 1931 and as a U.S. Senator from 1932 to 1935. He was a populist who championed segregation and the common white man. Robert Byrd was born in 1917. He was elected to the House of Representatives from West Virginia in 1952 and served until 1959 when he began his tenure as a U.S. Senator. In 2006, he was reelected to an unprecedented 9th term. A former member of the K, and the K, Byrd opposed integration and voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed segregation in U.S. schools and in public places, a position he later renounced. Did he really mean that renunciation, though? That's the question. But I found this a very interesting letter, and a lot of it is relevant today. Now, this video is running out, I'm sorry, but here's the book, Letters from Black America, and it's written by Pamela Newkirk. I found this in a Google search. I got this off Amazon. Yes, I shop at Amazon every blue moon, y'all. This was the last copy in paperback. You can't get it to your Kindle, or just Google and see if anybody else has it. But this is fascinating, and it's our history. So, again, I'm going to be reading from this for the rest of February for Black History Month. Maybe even after that, because there's quite a bit. There's over 400 pages, I believe. Let me make sure. No, not quite 400 pages. So, a little over 350, I guess. So, here we go.